While the world above ground faced total destruction, a small group lived with fine linens and silver service. This wasn't a palace on a hill, but reinforced chambers buried deep underground. Most history books describe these sites as cold, airless tombs where a regime awaited its end. But the physical evidence tells a more disturbing story of domestic routine and social warmth. These spaces weren't built merely to survive. They were engineered to maintain a facade of civilization for those orchestrating the most profound atrocities in human history. The clink of teacups and the smell of fresh coffee created a psychological barrier against the hell they had built. We have to confront the reality. The ultimate hideout was luxury. The social rituals held within the concrete walls. In the heart of the Berlin bunker, the atmosphere was forced social grace. Officials and their families gathered for tea, discussed literature, and celebrated birthdays as if the war were a distant rumor. Kitchens produced multi-course dinners in rooms decorated with stolen art and fine linens. Staff kept a level of service comparable to high-end hotels, so the move underground felt like inconvenience, not collapse. Witnesses described the surreal sound of laughter and clinking glasses echoing through hallways built to withstand 10-ton bombs. The contrast between comfort inside and destruction outside was intentional, creating a psychological barrier for the leadership. This comfort reveals a brutal contradiction. Social beauty inside, while millions face death outside. If the interior was meant to mimic a palace, how did the construction reflect the regime's goals? The architectural clash between defense and luxury. Construction required massive amounts of steel-reinforced concrete to withstand Allied bombardments. But once inside, the utilitarian exterior vanished. Walls were paneled in expensive wood, floors covered in thick rugs. In the Führerbunker, rooms were carefully furnished with personal belongings, favorite paintings, comfortable armchairs. The environment muffled the sound of the world ending with the trappings of a bourgeois home. Engineering focused as much on quality of life as on thickness of walls. Private quarters had modern plumbing, and bedrooms used high-quality linens, closer to a luxury apartment than a shelter. This duality exposes extreme selfishness. State-of-the-art comfort was built for elites while common soldiers were denied it. Was this investment only safety or a statement of permanent residence? The historical scope of the bunker system. As the war turned, bunker construction became a national obsession. These weren't single rooms, but massive networks. The Wolf's Lair and the Werewolf were entire underground complexes with casinos, cinemas, and heated quarters. The regime spent billions of Reichsmarks, diverting labor and materials desperately needed for defense. Forced laborers worked in brutal conditions to ensure the elite had a comfortable place to hide. Large sections of Europe became a dense network of reinforced concrete. The sheer volume of material could have rebuilt entire cities, yet it was buried to protect a failing command structure. These networks contradict propaganda of an invincible Reich. By building elaborate defenses early, leadership admitted they expected the war to reach them. If survival was the goal, why spend so much effort on aesthetics? The bunker as an ideological statement. Nazi ideology emphasized the Heimat, home, and the bunker became the ultimate expression of the protected German hearth. Interiors reflected order and cleanliness. Even facing collapse, the regime kept a standard of living that separated them from their enemies. This wasn't just survival, it was the preservation of a specific lifestyle. The bunker became a microcosm of their intended world order, a fortress of Germanic culture surrounded by a world they meant to destroy. Every room signaled superiority and entitlement. It reveals delusion. They believed they could isolate themselves from the chaos they created, using concrete as a barrier against the truth. How did this isolation shape the memories of those living inside? Eyewitness accounts of the internal atmosphere. Traudl Junge described the bunker as a place where time warped. No natural light was replaced by bright bulbs, and the ventilation hum became constant. She recalled staff forgetting a war was happening until shock waves rattled dinner plates. Witnesses described intense bonds formed in cramped rooms. Proximity to death created a pressurized social world where every interaction felt heightened, yet topics stayed stubbornly domestic. That emotional closeness produced a false sense of family unity. These stories humanize the inhabitants in an uncomfortable way. They force us to face the fact that people signing death warrants also worried about the quality of their tea. If the social order was that strong, what did it do to their minds? The bunker as a community space. These structures became common spaces where party hierarchies were reinforced. Invitations to the inner circle were coveted, and social interaction became political currency. Even as the Soviet army approached, residents maintained strict routines. Meals ran on schedules, creating a rhythm that ignored the collapse outside. Children played in hallways, their laughter colliding with military orders from the next room. The social order held even as the walls began to fail. Normalized life let the regime function long after it should have surrendered. Underground cohesion sustained the illusion of control and helped prolong the war. What happens when these environments are preserved today? The psychological state of the subterranean residents. Living underground created a unique dissociation. Inhabitants began to treat the bunker as the only reality. The outside world, firestorms and mass death, became abstract. This insulation let leadership keep issuing suicidal orders. Comfort created a false sense of security and collective denial. Physical safety made them mentally detached from the suffering of ordinary people, and the surroundings validated the belief they were still masters of Europe. It shows how environment shapes morality. Comfort didn't soften them, it enabled them. How do we reconcile that comfort with the ruins that remain? The modern preservation of these sites. Today, many bunkers still scar the European landscape. Some are museums, others are sealed. Tourists walk corridors where Goebbels and Hitler once stood. Preservation is debated: destroy them to erase memory or keep them as warning. Visitors often remark how mundane the spaces feel, an awful contradiction to what was directed from inside. Today the concrete is silent, but it once held a social atmosphere that felt almost normal. These ruins link us directly to a past we want to distance ourselves from. They remind us the architects of the Holocaust valued comfort. The bunkers prove horror can be planned in a familiar room, and that total destruction was managed from comfort. Nazi bunkers were the final comfortable homes of a regime that abandoned all humanity. We expect historical villains to inhabit dark spaces, but they preferred well-lit rooms with expensive rugs. The contradiction between domestic comfort and public brutality defined their rule. The bunkers revealed the truth. The regime cared only about its own preservation. As you picture these concrete giants, remember the most dangerous places on Earth once sounded like a normal evening. The gap between the myth of a military tomb and the reality of a luxury refuge is the warning. Evil often hides in comfort. These structures prove the ultimate expression of Nazi power wasn't a battlefield, but a reinforced dining room.